So, I wish I could give you good news about this country and this state, but there isn't a whole lot of it. We did have one successful shot up and around the moon.
I was going to say they're taking the knee down today.
Okay. All right. But we have an undeclared war with Iran, a war that was unplanned, unstrategized, no thought of how to end it, and sad to say, I'm afraid that Trump is losing. I'm not so sorry about his losing, but he takes the country with him. That, of course, has caused a big rise in gasoline prices, fertilizer prices, diesel fuel prices, all due to the petroleum interruption coming out of the Mideast. We got more inflation due to Trump's tariffs and imported food and steel and lumber and a whole bunch of other things. The tariffs that he's imposed on other countries, the other countries have, of course, reciprocated, taxing our agricultural outputs and exports. And as a result, we're losing a lot of our foreign markets as well. Rising medical costs due to cut in Obamacare supports, millions are being pushed off Medicaid and ACL. Rampant corruption in the Trump administration. The only people getting rich these days are people named Trump or their allies. And there's been a total loss of respect for the United States by our traditional international allies. It all adds up to one thing. It's time for a change. And Democrats are ready, willing, and able to offer that change. We've got a lot of talented Democratic candidates running for office this year. We've got Rob Sand running for governor. We've got a whole list of other excellent statewide candidates. We've got competitive races in 3 out of the 4 congressional districts. We've got good candidates for the state legislature. Well, I'm hoping for number 4 because you and I live in number 4. That's going to be a little tougher climb, but what the heck. A big blue wave might even carry the 4th district. Well, and then of course, there's this thing about an open seat for the United States Senate. And we have a terrific candidate there. Josh Turek is a state representative from Council Bluffs. He's been elected twice from a Republican-leaning district, once by only 6 votes. So he knows how to win a tough election. He's got a compelling personal story that shows he understands the trials and tribulations that a lot of people we know are going through. He's a strong supporter of public education, affordable medical care, veterans benefits, and a woman's right to choose. He has made us all proud by representing us in Paralympic Games and bringing home 2 basketball gold medals. And you may not know this, but most amazing of all, I don't know if I believe this, his college career, he outscored Caitlin Clark. So let's welcome the next United States Senator from Iowa, Josh Turek.
Hello, everyone. It's a heck of a reception. Thank you. Well, Senator Quirmbach, thanks for inviting me. Senator Quirmbach covered all of my bio, so I don't have to cover that one, thankfully. This was one of my favorite events that I did last year, and so I was really, really clear when Senator Quirmbach invited me back. I said, absolutely, I want to do this. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you, whether you supported me or not, genuinely, thank you. We were able to win 96 of 99 counties, 26-point margin. So thank you, each and every one of you, that whether you donated some money, put a sign in your yard, certainly any of you that entrusted me with your vote, genuinely from the bottom of my heart, I'm incredibly grateful. But the truth is, this was never about winning a primary. This is about winning a general election. And we have got 146 days to be able to change this state and change this country. And with each and every one of your help, we're going to be able to do that. And we're going to have a voice representing Iowans in the United States Senate again. So a few bad things is, this is a state that is really hurting, uniquely. We are a state that is basically dead last for economic growth, 48th for personal income growth, one of 2 states already in an economic decline, basically dead last for nearly every single healthcare metric. That's OBGYNs, rural hospital quality, mental health providers, mental health supports. In the last 15 years here in Iowa, we've closed 250 more healthcare clinics than we've opened. We're the only state with a growing cancer rate, second highest rates behind Kentucky, and now we are leading the nation in farm foreclosures because of the Trump tariffs. Iowans are uniquely hurting. But here's the good news. Iowans are waking up. Everywhere that we are going, it doesn't matter urban or rural, we're hearing from people saying enough is enough. We need change. And we go into these rural communities and the words that we hear the most is betrayal. Trump administration gives $20 billion to Argentina. Meanwhile, Iowa soybean farmers are upside down. They're waking up. The independents, the moderate Republicans, they're ready for change. They recognize that we need change both at the state and the federal level. So this is our opportunity, and opportunities don't come around like this very often. This is my message to you, is that if each and every one of us do a little bit more than what we've done before, we're going to see a huge pendulum swing here in Iowa. Do not forget, yes, I believe that Iowa is going to be the center of the political universe this year. This is the only state that you're looking at flipping 3 congressional races, a governor's race, and a U.S. Senate race. I want each and every one of you to remember that this is the state that for 30 years we elected Senator Harkin. We have more Obama-Trump counties than any other state in the union. Trump's last midterm, we win 3 of the 4 congressional races. This is a common sense state that has masqueraded more red than what it is. This is the first time since 1968, open governor's race and open Senate race together, along with 2 open congressional races. We can win these races. We just got polling that came out. This race is tied with myself and Ashley Hinson. So my ask is 6 vote. I win my first election by 6 votes. I want to leave you all with the 6 vote initiative. If each and every one of us does a little bit more, knock 6 doors, talk to 6 family, talk to 6 friends, register 6 people to vote, bring 6 people to polls, this will be the difference between us winning and losing this election. But I can't do it alone. This is about each and every one of us. So we've got to come together and we've got to do a little bit more than what we've done. And if we do that, we're going to have somebody in the United States Senate that's going to be fighting from Iowa, that is going to be fighting for a livable wage, for affordable housing, for health care as a human right, for affordable pharmaceuticals, for keeping public money in public schools, for fighting to codify Roe v. Wade because every woman deserves reproductive freedom, fighting to address the cancer crisis in this state and the water quality crisis, and fighting to address the corruption that we're seeing in D.C. I will fight to overturn Citizens United and have, because we can have oligarchy or we can have democracy, but we cannot have both. These are the things that I'm going to be fighting for in the United States Senate, to not be looking out for the billionaires and the large corporations, but to be fighting for each and every one of you. For the have-nots, for the little guy, for our workers, for the middle class. That's what you will have in the United States Senate with me. So let's all come together. We've got 146 days to be able to change this state and change this country. So this is I say that my story is uniquely the American dream. Only in America could someone that's gone through the economic adversity that I've gone through, the healthcare adversity that I've gone through, be able to ultimately be able to win gold medals, represent my community in the Iowa legislature, and now be able to run for the United States Senate. And I am fighting because I'm seeing that American dream hollowed out. Home ownership becoming harder and harder, healthcare being ripped away from people, food assistance being ripped away from people, and this may be the last opportunity we've got to make sure that the American dream continues for each and every one of us. And so, if you care about our small communities, you care about small businesses, you care about the middle class, you care about healthcare, you care about the people, this is our opportunity to fight back. Because if we're able to win this U.S. Senate seat here in Iowa, we're able to get to 51, and everything changes. Iowa's going to be the center of the political universe. If we all come together, we're going to win this U.S. Senate seat, and we are going to change this state and change this country. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Well, thank you, Josh, for inspiring us all. We need to take that Senate seat. We need to take the congressional seats. Think about it. Think about it. We don't need that many seats in either the Senate or the House for the Democrats to take back the majority in the Congress. And Iowa, little old Iowa here, we could supply nearly half of the seats if we just work our butts off and get all of these fine candidates elected. Okay, well, you know, my invitation said I had a mystery special guest. You figured out who that Josh was the person I was thinking about. The invitation had to go to print before the primary, and he was confident, but I was nervous, and so I said mystery. Well, yeah, I think you've been adequately rewarded already, but we're not done. I've got another candidate here today who is running for the state Senate, Heather Matson. Where is Heather? Heather, come on up. Heather is a state representative who's run a couple of times. One time she won by a landslide of 22 votes. That's a landslide compared to Josh's 6 votes. It's all relative, right? She's serving her 3rd term in the Iowa House. She's running for Senate District 21, which is Ankeny. Currently representing that district is Republican Mike Busolo, but when he heard, that's the proper pronunciation of his name, Busolo. When he heard that Heather was coming after him, he moved to a different district. So I think we got a real good candidate here who has a terrific chance in an area in a suburban area that has been trending more friendly to Democrats. Heather, could you give us a few words on your campaign, please?
Oh, well, thank you so much, Herman. It's a thrill to be here at Ames, and I have a little bit of a history with Ames. Back in 2018, the first time I won election, it was in part because there was an organization called Flip It Iowa. Does anyone remember that at all? Yes. And there were 4 lovely women, Dillis Morris, Linda Emerson, Betsy West, and Sandra McJimsey, who hosted an event for me. And it was amazing. But I was so thrilled to be here and to have this amazing support from this community, knowing that we were fortunate to have some pretty safe seats, right, in Ames? Some pretty safe seats. And to recognize that there is power in communities across the state, not just in electing folks where you live, but also in communities across the state that could use a little bit more help. And because of the support of a lot of folks in Ames, I won that race in 2018 by 500 votes. So, then of course came 2020. We're gonna really go past that really quick because I lost my re-election. But in 2022, I was convinced to run again because I'm really persistent and I don't give up easily. And that was when I won by, it was actually 23 votes, but really, really close. I will say that on election day, I have a big superstition of knocking a very specific neighborhood in my community. And that started in 2018. And so on election day in 2022, my friends and I, that this very specific group of girlfriends, we go knock this very specific neighborhood. And on that day, we convinced at least 12 people to vote who had not otherwise been planning to vote. And then I won by 23 votes. So when you hear that every vote makes a difference and you're really wondering if that's actually true, please know that it is. Literally every single vote. And so when Josh was saying if everyone can do just like 6 more things, that truly is going to make a difference, right? And then I came back and won again in 24. And so I am a non-consecutive 3-term state representative. I like to say I was on sabbatical for 2 years. So in running for the Senate, yes, I'm running because I believe that no matter where you live in the state, no matter your zip code, that you have both economic security and economic opportunity. And why is that? It's because to me, life is about more than surviving, it is about thriving. And we have a state government for, I don't know, the last 10 years of a Republican trifecta that does not believe in that. It doesn't. And we have an opportunity to make sure that that changes. I view every issue through the lens of security and opportunity. And first and foremost, it is strong public schools. And I know that this is something that Herman and I have in common, both of us having served as ranking members of education committees, that my North Star, and I am sure this is Herman's too, is to make Iowa #1 in education again. And there are a whole host of issues that I could talk about. I am a very strong and very vocal advocate of women's reproductive freedom and maternal health care. I am a fighter for affordable child care and attainable housing and rent stabilization. I am a fighter for economic development that actually supports small businesses while also making sure that Iowans have retirement security and a living wage. None of these things are mutually exclusive, and we can do all of them when we actually believe in each other. And so I just want to mention one little quick story. So 2 weeks ago, I turned 50. And I know I don't look a day over 49, it's fine. But that makes me a bicentennial baby. And for as long as I can remember, that has been a big deal. And so for those of you who were also around in 1976, you probably also remember bicentennial babies being a huge deal. And yes, and I will say my parents even doubled down on this by having me baptized on the 4th of July. They really did, they really did. And turning 50 really has me reflecting on America at 250, right? Being born at 200, and now we're at 250. And there is something, I think, about this in my history that has made me always been thinking about the common good. It's why I think I have always been compelled by language of, we are our brother's keeper, we are our sister's keeper. It's why, and I am not joking here, I literally tear up and cry at the end of the Declaration of Independence every single time that I read it, of we mutually pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. That's who we are. And so as we're thinking of America at 250, I know that things feel really upside down right now. And there are a lot of people who are hurting. And that is very true. It's also true that that has happened on and off for 250 years. Because we were founded in the paradoxical beauty of both compromise and heartbreak. Both of those things are true. But we've been able to make real progress over 250 years. And not without hurt, and also joy and more hurt and more joy and more hurt and back and forth. But as I think of America at 250, I think about what is our moment and what are we going to do about it? And for me, I talked about being baptized on the 4th of July as doubling down as a bicentennial baby. Well, in running for the Iowa Senate, I am doubling down on the power of building community, on the value, the inherent value of our neighbors, and in making Iowa, once again, the most welcoming state and the best place to live, work, and raise a family. So I hope that you will join me in doing that and thinking about what is your America 250 moment. What are you going to double down on to make a difference here in Ames, maybe even here in Ankeny or down the road in Ankeny a few miles, to not just elect the folks here, but think about how we are all truly in this together. And I will add that yes, we are absolutely, and Josh mentioned this, we of course are now hearing plenty of stories about how Iowa is the center of the political universe. It's true, it's true. I will say what's also true is that if you're looking for the center of Iowa's political universe, that is Ankeny. And I actually had my own fundraiser on Wednesday, and I said that, and I was like, and also, obviously, we're from Ankeny, so we all know that. It's a joke, but only kind of. So we have a thing. But the reason why I mention that is, yes, we have the real opportunity of electing Democrats statewide. We have amazing congressional races. I'm in the 3rd congressional district. I am really looking forward to retiring Zach Nunn with Sarah Trone Garriott. And locally, we have my Senate district, which will be a flip. And then we have 3 competitive House districts. My own House district of House District 42 with Amy Talley-Rennie, House District 41 getting Molly Buck back to the Iowa House, and then House District 40, which includes a little bit of Ankeny, and that's Heather Severs defeating Bill Gustav. And so what I like to tell people is that come January 2027, Ankeny, if we do the work, will be represented by 4 Democratic women in the state legislature. And Iowa Senate Democrats have already laid the groundwork, you guys. In 2025, flipping seats and ending the Republican supermajority in the Senate, right? We are on track. We just need to keep going. We need to not take our foot off the gas, and we need to keep going. So thank you for being here and supporting Herman. And thank you for doing all you can to make sure that you are not taking your foot off the gas so that we're winning in November. Thank you very much.
You see what I mean? We have recruited some terrific candidates up and down the line. Of all of the Senate districts that are up this year, I think only 4 or maybe 5 don't have a Democrat running. In Northwest Iowa, it's kind of hard to find them. But the quality of the people we've got is excellent. The coverage we've got, we're challenging more incumbents on the other side than they are of us. And I think that the winds are blowing our way. I really do. So people like Heather, people like Josh, people like, well, all of the people that you know of, both locally here and statewide, the statewide candidates, I think it's our year. But it isn't going to happen. There's a difference between a wish and a reality. It isn't going to happen unless we all get out and we all work and we all knock the doors. And yeah, it's also going to take some money. Thank you for donating here tonight. I'm at the part of the speech where I have to invoke Margot McNabb. Because at a Story County Democratic event, the ghost of Margot McNabb would haunt me between here and Election Day if we didn't pass the hat. So, Linda, were you going to help? And Penny? So if you can spare a few more bucks, I appreciate that. Let me be real clear. As of this moment, I don't have a Republican opponent, but they can put someone on the ballot against me as late as the middle of August. And that did happen a few campaigns ago. I got to this stage, I got to June and didn't have anybody, and by September 1, I had an opponent that I had to really work hard to win. So we have to raise some money to be prepared for that. If I get past that point and still don't have a Republican opponent, then the great bulk of the money that we're raising here tonight goes to the Senate Majority Fund so that we can target priority candidates like Heather, all right, and like a lot of other Democrats. We're on something of a roll there. Heather mentioned we won 3 special elections last year. A year ago, January, over in Clinton, they took the sitting state senator, you pronounce her name Cournoyer, rhymes with annoyer. That's her joke, not mine. They thought it was a safe seat, so if they appointed her lieutenant governor, of course, they could just fill that seat with another Republican. Along came Mike Zimmer, who spoke at a fundraiser for me in this room actually last year. And we had a terrific candidate, a teacher, a school administrator, a school board member. He had served in a number of the different communities in that district. He was known by a couple of generations of students. And he won. Picked up 20% to win, as opposed to what the Republicans had gotten in the preceding presidential election only a few months before that. And I can tell you, he's serving on the Education Committee, of course, where I'm the ranking member. He knows everything about public K-12 education, top to bottom. He knows what works and what doesn't work, what sounds like a good idea and isn't. Very valuable guy to have there. So that was a great victory. And then last summer, we went from frozen toes to sweating brows over in in Sioux City. Caitlin Dray ran and won. And that was the pickup that broke the Republican supermajority and got us to a position where we had the votes to at least turn down some of the governor's less propitious appointees, let's say. Well, but then last fall, my dear friend and colleague Claire Celsey died, and so we had a vacancy to fill. Fortunately, that district did lean Democratic, but we still had an overwhelming shift in the percentages, and we elected Renee Hardman, the first African-American woman to serve in the Iowa Senate, and she is a terrific senator. So we just need to keep going like we've been going. But none of those victories happened by accident. We got out and we knocked on doors in freezing weather in January and broiling weather in August, and I don't remember what the weather was like at Christmas time. They scheduled the election between Christmas and New Year's. Remember that? They thought that they could sneak one by us. No. Well, so that's what we're after, is to generate the momentum, the effort, and the resources, and thank you all for helping that out. Let me talk a little bit and very seriously about the state of the state and why this is all so important. Public K-12 schools have been dramatically underfunded ever since Kim Reynolds became governor. As compared to where we were when Terry Branstad left the governor's office, and he wasn't a great fan of public education, a great champion, but compared to where Terry Branstad left us, we have come nowhere close to keeping up with inflation. On a per student basis, we're down more than $1,000 per student. And that's for regular program students. Now, kids who are in special ed programs, they get a little extra. They get a multiple of the funding, which means that when we're falling short by a multiple. The most seriously challenged special ed kids are down more than $3,500 per kid. Per kid. The kids who need the physical help, like Josh did, the kids who need the emotional help, the perceptive help, whatever, the autism, the dyslexia, all of the issues, all of those terrible issues that I didn't have to struggle with when I was in school, that I was lucky enough. There are a lot of kids who have more challenges than I did or than most of us did, and we owe them that extra help. We're not giving it to them. And what the governor has done to the area education agencies, I'm not even going to get into that. That has further diminished and made it harder to deliver services to those kids. You know, every January, when the governor gives her State of the State speech, she usually makes a proposal for the state percent of growth. That is the percent increase in the state cost per pupil. That's the amount of general fund money that school districts are allowed to spend, all right? This last year, 2%. 2% increase will start July 1. This last week, year over year, inflation was announced, not 2%. Double that, more than double that. 4.2%, so that's another 2% that our kids are behind. We would need next January at least a 14% increase in the per pupil funding just to get back to where we were in 2016, in fiscal year 2017. That's the kind of undermining of the quality of Iowa education that's been going on. The aggregate shortfall this last year, more than $500 million. Oh, but the governor can find, the Republicans can find, $325 million to spend on private schools. Now, I've got No. I got nothing against the private schools. We got a couple of pretty good ones here in Ames. I hear good things about them. All right? I don't think public money should go to fund religious education. That's part of what they do. That's part of what their selling point is they're promoting their religion. But here's the thing that really bothers me. 80% of the people currently getting vouchers don't need them. 80% of those families could already afford tuition at the private schools, because that was the number that attended the private schools before the vouchers even came along. $325 million of public money should be put back into the public schools. We know they need them. Total K-12 shortfall over the Reynolds years. Yeah, I'm a retired economist, but I still do economics. Total shortfall in today's dollars, $2.7 billion over that time. Is it any wonder why the ranking of Iowa public schools in the survey that came out this last week is down to 27th? We're below the midpoint. We used to be 1 or 2 or 3. Now we're 27th. We got to turn this around. We got to move it back up. Our teachers deserve better support. Our kids deserve better education. And of course, the shortfalls aren't limited to public K-12. Community colleges. The community colleges have been least badly treated. They have only lost this last year $23 million relative to inflation. The regents are down $265 million, $250 million this fiscal year alone, and next year it's going to get worse. They basically got no increase from our friends in the Republican caucus in the legislature going into next year. So the total shortfall for public education over the Reynolds years, $714 million this fiscal year. Total over that time period, $3.75 billion. Now that is almost exactly the number that is in the taxpayer relief fund that is financing the deficits that we're having. The deficits are the result of the income tax cuts that went overwhelmingly to the high end of the income scale. We have been robbing from our kids, our public school kids, our community college, our university students. We've been robbing from them, robbing from their future to fund those income tax cuts. We got to do better. We got to reorient our priorities. Okay, water quality. You've all been reading dangerously high nitrate and phosphorus level. You know, I was born in Minnesota. I remember growing up in Minnesota my first few years. We lived near a lake. We went swimming 6-8 times a day. It was hard to keep track of how many times I went swimming a day because my swimming trunks never got dry. Okay? I'm sorry, but there isn't a body of surface water in Iowa that I would swim in. Maybe you are more risk-taking than I am, but thanks anyway. Des Moines, you heard again in the last week or two, they are banning watering of lawns because they don't have the capacity to take enough nitrate out of the water to satisfy the need for water for drinking and washing and all those things and lawn watering. So for the second time, they've said, don't water your lawns. Okay, we don't have enough pure water to do that. The state, what does the state respond by doing? Stopping monitoring the nitrate levels. That's the way to fix a problem, ignore it, right? Never worked for me, I don't know about you. And our state policy towards runoff continues with a voluntary approach. I know that there are people, I know that there are farmers, I know there are ag people who have tried hard to do that voluntary approach and to make improvements and changes in procedure on their land, but it's not been enough. The state needs to get involved. The state needs to give more concrete guidance. Cancer, we're second highest in the nation, and we're still growing. It's a multidimensional problem. There are lots of different ways that cancer gets caused. Perhaps nitrates is one of them. I don't know that the science is settled on that, but there's a lot of suspicion from correlations. Tobacco. I sat on the Tobacco Commission for 20 years. You might remember when I was on City Council, I was leading the fight to ban smoking in restaurants in Ames, and we got that passed. We got that passed, and it was successful. Paved the way for the state Clean Air Act that followed a few years later. Well, the Tobacco Commission no longer exists because in their infinitesimal wisdom, the Republicans decided they wanted to reorganize government, and so that got lopped in with some behavioral health board or something. We've lost the focus on tobacco. It's been 20 years since we raised the tax on cigarettes. All right? We did put a little tax on vaping, a nickel. Now that's going to raise maybe $3 million, and that's going to be donated for cancer research, pediatric cancer research. That's fine use for the money. But the point of taxing smoking or vaping is to deter people from getting involved and doing it in the first place. Okay? And it's especially true with young people. If you can get a kid, if you can get a young person to age 25 without their starting smoking, the chances are huge that they never will. That they never will start. Okay? So much better to do prevention. Quitting ain't easy, is it? Somebody I know who made the struggle and succeeded. Okay, so radon. Unfortunately, underneath this beautifully productive topsoil we have a geology structure that is inclined to emit radon, a radioactive gas. We need to do more to promote the idea of testing, especially in older homes. And I'd like to see a program where we can subsidize the remediation for those homes that need it. Especially the older homes, especially the homes where, let's say, people who are less flush, rental units, we can cut down on that kind of cancer as well. We can do all of that. But a lot of that takes money. And that's where the real crunch is coming in. These Republican tax cuts, and I don't like paying taxes any more than you do, and everybody loves a tax cut until you connect it with the services that you can no longer afford. All right? I know you've heard me say this. I must have said it 1,000 times just when I was on City Council. I'm happy to provide any service that you're willing to pay for. But if you're not willing to pay for it, we can't provide it. The world doesn't work that way. Okay? We need to have more grown-ups in charge who understand there's a connection between the services that people want and value and are part of their quality of life and their survival and the necessity to pay for it. Okay? Now, my job in public office is to make sure that those services, we keep the quality up and the cost down. Okay? I'm very sensitive to that, but at some point, if you don't have the revenue coming in, you can't provide it. This state is running a deficit this fiscal year of over $1.2 billion, and the state's deficit will be about the same next fiscal year. The Republicans freely admit that the fall in the revenue, that the deficits are the result of the income tax cuts. They bought into this discredited old theory of supply-side economics and the Laffer curve, that somehow by cutting the tax rates, you were going to get this explosion of growth and jobs and profits, and you're going to actually have more revenue despite the lower rates. It's never worked that way. Kansas tried it in 2013. They had to close schools because they ran out of money before the end of the school year. They had to cancel or postpone road projects. Finally, the Republican legislature had to override the veto of the Republican governor to restore most of those tax rates. The only good thing that came out of that, other than an object lesson that we should have but didn't learn, the only good thing that came out of that is they got a Democratic governor, which they still have. I'm hoping we get a Democratic governor here because somebody's got to learn that lesson. Okay, I've got to close with what I think is the most serious subject of all. There's a constitutional amendment that's going to be on the ballot this fall. Okay? And that constitutional amendment says that for the legislature to pass any increase, any restoration of the income tax rates, it would require a 2/3 majority of both houses of the legislature. Do the math on that. That means that 17 senators, barely 10% of the 150 people serving the legislature, 17 senators could tie up the state's revenue stream and deny us the ability to raise the money we need to continue the services we all want. Barely 10%. That's, I mean, minority rule, for gosh sakes. What are the alternatives? Well, how would you like a 15% sales tax? How would you like a sales tax on groceries, some of the things that are exempted today? How would you like further cutbacks in education? How would you like further cutbacks in Medicaid? How would you like further cutbacks across the board in state services? I wouldn't. It's not the state that I chose to live in 36 years ago. It's not the state that we've all been proud of for so many years. So please, when you get to the ballot line, and it'll probably be on the back of the ballot and probably down about the last thing there on that constitutional amendment. I know it sounds good. Oh, no, we never want a tax increase. Well, let's keep our hold of democracy. Let's keep our hold of majority rule, not minority rule. Please vote against that constitutional amendment. If that thing passes, I'll put it to you a little bit crudely. Anybody who votes for that is helping to put a noose around the neck of public education. And we don't want to do that. I will do my best to make sure that any tax dollars you pay in are used productively to create and to sustain the services that we all want and value. And if I have any money left over, yeah, I'd vote for a tax cut. When I was on city council, I voted to cut property tax rates four times out of 7. But the one time I voted to increase it was in 2001, when we all went to the polls twice. In June, 90% of us voted to put a third fire station on South Duff to service that area. They had a bad fire response time. And then in November, we went to the polls again, and 86% of us voted to make the investment in creating Ada Hayden Park. That's the kind of responsible fiscal decision making we've all got to be grown-ups about. Anyway, hey, look, it's great to have you all here. Finish up the food, please. Let's have some more music, and let's have some more fun. Thank you.